Hey everyone, how are you? I'm in the deep universe today with the Dippers, particularly the Pleiades, which I want to talk about this afternoon for our next seminar, Seminar 4, which is called Make Space for Mythos, Armstrong's Historical Calendar and Myth as Timekeeper, Record, and Measure. This is for English 431 World Mythology class. What's up? Hope you had a good weekend. We have been reading, this book. I think you're probably mostly done with it. So this is the primary topic for today, but I'm going to be weaving in some other things and then we can have a discussion about it on Wednesday if you like. So finish it up and get ready to discuss this book and questions you have about it, things I saw you had awesome discussion board topics already for this book and mentions of it in various areas. So thank you for that. And let me read you the description of what our talk's about. And I'll also be drawing from this book, The Sacred and the Profane, and Genius Loci Towards a Phenomenology of Architecture, which is a really neat book. I recommend, it's on the recommend list on the PDF. Okay, we're digging in. Here we go. In our last seminar, we considered how charisma evokes epiphany to learn how performance can become charged, embodied, and transformative. By studying Jaeger's list of charismatic effects through lenses of enchantment, aspiration, and mimesis, we started to think about how surrogacy, humans and objects as substitutes, stand-ins, and symbols, can transform into deities, idols, and totems. In this seminar, we'll shift back to Karen Armstrong's historical charting of when myths started circulating and learn the eras that mark the evolution of humanity and our storytelling styles. We'll learn when, where, how, and why some key mythic archetypes arrived into origin stories, like the Tree of Life, Mother Goddess, and the Great Flood, in order to understand how these symbols continue to hold representative power and enchantment. During this chronology's exploration, we'll look at how myth innovates time. Myths play with cosmic ordering and challenge notions of linear time and progress. This is significant because one's sense of the profane, durational time, must be loosened or at least flexible in order to feel myths' transformative magic and sacred connections, or so Armstrong and Eliade claim. So we've got the 3 books I'm drawing from today. The only one Armstrong text was the assigned book for us. And I'll get started here, then we'll take a break, and this can be an introductory portion of this video, and I'll start part 2 with the longer chart that we'll be working through today. There's a little bit of reading. In first seminar, we looked at Armstrong's functions of myth, and we began in this talk after that, where she says, today the word myth is often used to describe something that is simply not true. I've always wondered, how did that usage come to be? And in reading your discussion points and catching up on Blackboard conversation, I realized that a lot of you drew on that point and find it interesting because you have similar feelings about where this idea came from. Attempted cultural erasure by organized religions impeding on indigenous cultures? Partially, but it's more than that. It has to do with how much human sense of time has changed since the Paleolithic era. In other words, if time is linear now and is expected to move forward and to progress, mythic time, which goes every which way and even changes within the same story told over eons, is construed as wrong or false. Since modern times And since Greek thought taught us to think of experiences as dichotomous, you might have heard the word dichotomy before, diametrically opposed, dualistic, and oppositional. There's two, you can hear the duo in there. There are two elements opposing each other. Some have come to disbelieve myth when taken too literally. But on the other hand, it should be taken literally, right? See, there's a paradox. And in mythology's original inventions, Armstrong claims that myth wasn't right or wrong, it just was. This was because there was little separation of secular and spiritual experience 20,000 years ago. All this to say, we have to look at humanity's historical calendar to learn about how a separation of sacred and profane came to be, in order to understand why some people might consider myths untrue or fantastic, which they might be, but they're also true and real. They're both. My main message in this talk is that dualistic thinking doesn't pair especially well with mythology, because hang-ups will abound between fantasy and reality, between categorizing and distinguishing, between similarities and differences, right? Good and evil, we see a lot of these dualities in the myths themselves, but how are we supposed to take that? Myths require an extension of logos, which we've started to use that term. I'll talk more about it in a minute. They require extension of logos, as we'll learn, for that magic to seep in and to create unexpected and unpredictable cracks and fissures in our beliefs, like spring water leaking through a rock outcropping. We'll take a little break and we'll come back to part 2, in which we look at Armstrong's cliff notes of her historical calendar of invention of mythology in Paleolithic times, all the way up to the year 2020. We have a lot of work to do today. Thank you. Talk to you in a sec.